Let's go beyond the connection. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I'm Steve McDonald, your host. We've got a super interesting conversation set up with Bjørn Jensen. Bjørn, you are, I would call an entrepreneur at heart. You've been running your company. You're the CEO and founder for the last 20 years or so. You started out even in high school. You were helping the local college professor actually teaching a course. You've been IT director, manager. You've got network infrastructure in your DNA at this point, I would say. But what we're going to talk about today is a subject that doesn't get a lot of discussion or coverage in the industry because we're so focused on product and advances in technology and what it means and making that the major benefit statement of selling our businesses. But you focus so much on the service side as a key differentiator in your business. And I think that's a lost art. And I think it's not something that a lot of companies focus enough on. And so we're going to unpack that today. But before we do, I'd love to give you an opportunity to expand on the couple of things that I just said there about you before we get started.
I think you pretty much said it all. I've been at this for quite some time. I found a niche industry that I really enjoy. And I think that I've always been one to be really big on support and the customer experience. And I think that the industry that I fell into is big on that as well. The people that do really well in our industry take service to another level and they try to elevate the experience for the homeowner. And that's what our industry is about, is elevating that experience. And so it fits perfectly for how I've always been.
And explain a little bit about your business and the industry that you're in, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so we do commercial work as well. We get dragged into it. It's not fun. It's good money, but it's not really the fun part of what we do. I'm in an industry where I'm really there to get really cool stuff for good pricing for my personal home. What we do is we design and we configure and we support networks for residential automation systems. So our clients, our partners are the AV integrators that go into the house and they do the lighting control, they program the Crestron system, they hang the TVs, they run the cabling, they do all that really cool stuff that everybody would really love in their home. But all of that stuff really requires a good network backbone. And without the network, none of that's going to work. Imagine going to your keypad and ramping up the volume for the music and the control doesn't get there because the traffic is congested. And so you're pushing the button to ramp up the volume and all of a sudden it catches up and your speakers blow. That's obviously not a good thing. Or just these days, everybody working from home, they're walking around, they're on the phone, they're on Wi-Fi calling because they might have bad cell service. They need to be able to get all around their house. It could be a 60,000 square foot house, which seems crazy, but this is the kind of stuff that we see. And they want to be able to walk from one side to the other and even outdoors without dropping a call. And so that's really important to people. And this is what we do. We design these networks specifically for residential, which turns out it's actually a lot harder than commercial. Commercial, you only have 4 device types. You have printers, you have computers, those mobile devices, things like that. Where in a home, you could have 100 different device types. And so we have to try to make sure that all of these devices work properly on the network, traffic's managed properly, network segmentation for security. It's interesting, but it's a lot of fun.
Oh, I can only imagine. And I've got to ask you, out of real curiosity, we live these days, especially out of our homes, wirelessly. Other than plugging into the router, I don't know that there's like a cable that we even plug in. We are on our devices, whether it's our network-aware refrigerator or our laptop or our cell phone or our Alexa device, whatever it is, it's wireless these days. So I would love to just start out, because I'm curious, is your installation strategy, you talked about cabling and everything, but a big part of a network strategy is the failover, the resiliency of the network. How important is that just as the first line of strategic thought about putting in a network into these very high-end homes and the role of wireless within that?
It's very important. I mean, it also depends on the end client and what their goals are, because you can do a lot of redundancy, a lot of failover, but it does drive up the cost. That makes a big difference on what their budget is and what they're looking for. You can think of a gamer that is a professional gamer that can't have any downtime. You're going to want to hardwire their box, first of all. I mean, hardwire is the way to go as much as you can. It just alleviates traffic on the Wi-Fi. I mean, AP's wireless is a half duplex medium. It's like a walkie-talkie. So only one device can talk at a time. You have to wait to talk. So the more devices you have on there, the more congestion there is. So you want to try to hardwire as much as possible. But redundancy for day traders, they can't have any downtime. If they're down for a minute, they could lose $1 million. So it has to be up and running. Or they're in the middle of an important sales call in front of 100 people and they can't be down. So that's incredibly important. And we'll get people that will get a redundant firewall, a high availability unit. So if the firewall goes down, the other one comes in. You also obviously have redundant ISP links, staggered APs on different switches. So if one switch goes down, at least half the APs are up and there's enough cell coverage there to get them going. I mean, there's a number of things you can do. And you can imagine if somebody wants 5 gigs from their Comcast connection, 5 gigs down on the internet, and they want security services, that's slowing the unit down. So you need to have a more robust firewall. It could be $40,000 with security services, with the kind of firewall that can push 5 gigs through just for that one firewall and the services. Then they need a HA unit. So now you need 2, and that's in a house. So it can be outrageous. I don't know who needs 5 gigs down on their home, but people love to play everybody's favorite video game, which is speedtest.net. And they pull out the phone, they push it, and they show their neighbors and their friends, look what I got. And that's why they need it.
I've had conversations on this podcast where, like, even at the enterprise level, 100 meg connection is pretty good for almost anything we need to do. But I do the same thing. I'm like, wow, oh, look at that. That's great. It just makes you feel good.
There are some products out there like Kaleidoscape, which is probably the best movie server. This is like a pitch for them. They should give me some money, but I really do believe this. It's the best movie server that you can get in a home or anywhere, really. It downloads bit by bit exactly what the movie studios had for the movie. So if you buy a Blu-ray of a movie, it doesn't have as much information as you actually get on the Kaleidoscape, and it doesn't buffer. It downloads the full thing to the server. And about a year or 2 ago, they came out with an updated version that has 2.5 gig NICs on them. It used to be where it would take, if I was out with my kids having dinner, I would say, all right, guys, what movie do you want to watch tonight? We'd browse the library on my phone and we'd start the download so that by the time we get home, we can watch the movie. Because if you sit down with the popcorn and you want to watch it, then you're going to have to wait. Now you can download a movie with that high speed. You can download a movie in about 4 or 5 minutes. It's a lot better because you can start the download, go make the popcorn, go sit down and start the movie. So people do need faster connections now, but it depends how much you want to pay for that.
Absolutely. All right. I want to digress there. Thank you. It was interesting. I want to talk about the idea of service as the ultimate network and differentiator. So you've been in business for a couple of decades doing this. In your words, why would you talk about the service component as the leading differentiator in what you do?
I feel that's what's needed. These days, people are just pushing boxes and you don't really have that human aspect. And it's going to get worse with AI, where AI is going to replace it. And at some point, maybe the AI will be good enough. I know the other day I called Sub-Zero about my fridge and it was an AI service thing. And oddly enough, it actually did a better job than a human as far as gathering the information that I needed. But it still lost that human connection, but I'm sure it's going to get better there. But I think people are always going to want to know there's an actual human on the other end. Even if you do make mistakes, there's something different about it than connecting with a robot or connecting with something that doesn't really have feelings. And I think because there's so many people that are going the opposite direction, this is what makes us successful, is that people feel like we're actually a part of their team. They can reach out about any question, no matter what it is. Even if it's not our gear, we tell them like, look, we're an extension of your IT department. We work for you. I always joke that we're indentured servants to them, because it is that way. They purchase our products and we don't really add anything for the support side. We just include all of those services in with everything that we sell. And we take that really seriously, that we are a literal extension of their IT department. So whatever they ask us to do, if it was something they were going to ask their own IT department, they can ask that of us. And we're just a phone call away, 24/7, 365, no hold times, no tiered. So it's always top tier, somebody that understands the system, is certified in the products, and understands their network.
So that's interesting, because that in every business, we look at our profit margins very carefully, and providing this level of high touch, no hold time, senior level people that I can talk to at any time. You're putting your money where your mouth is.
It's not easy. And it took a lot of hard work to get here. Originally, when I started the company, we didn't really have the relationships with the manufacturers that we do now, because it was just me. And I had to purchase stuff at regular partner price. So it's the same kind of model where I don't sell a support fee on top of it. I sold the product and that included the fee. So I would sell it at MSRP, and then the integrators would buy it at MSRP. They'd have to mark it up so they could make their margins to the homeowners. But that's when networking first started out in the AV world. So people didn't really know. You didn't have Amazon where you could just go and price shop, things like that. So we clawed our way up, did the volume we needed to get additional discounts because margin does go lower and lower. We have a rep force of about 50 people throughout the country that are repping Sony, Samsung, Crestron, Lutron, those kinds of things. And then they also rep us. We're the network provider. And some of the margin goes to that. We're part of buying groups. Some of the margin goes to that. So there's all these things that kind of chip away at it, but we still want to maintain that service where you purchase the product at basically the same price you would if you were a direct partner with the manufacturer. And we include all of those services. I mean, next business day advanced replacement, free shipping, limited lifetime warranty on all indoor gear, as much as we can to make them happy, make it easy to do business with us as well. Everything we look at, from our intake forms to billing to anything, we try to attack everything as we want to make it as easy as possible to do business with us and just make it a pleasure. And also the first thing that happens when someone calls for support, we don't say, hey, what's the serial number? Let me make sure that's under support before I help you. Because I've been in the field. I know what it's like. You got a level 1 tech on a Sunday called out to a job site. He's got a customer breathing down his neck. And I know what it's like where you get there, you got them saying, when's it going to be fixed? You have to call into support. You sit on hold for an hour before somebody comes on the line and says, what's the serial number? Let me check to see if it's under support. You give them the serial number. They say, sorry, I can't help you. You have to renew your support. I mean, that guy can't call his manager and submit a PO to renew support. And that's going to have to be done later in the week. It's going to take time. In the meantime, the customer's frustrated, maybe pissed off. You feel like a failure because you can't fix the problem. Nobody's happy and it just stinks. So what we do is we just help right away. What's the problem? What's the site name? We just get in and help. And then if we see that it's out of support, we'll reach out later in the week to the person that's in charge of renewals at the company because the tech isn't. And we'll say, hey, you're out of support warranty here. Do you want to renew? And if they say no, we go, okay, no problem. We don't bill them. Move on. If it happens again, we reach out again, say, hey, this is the second time we helped you. Do you want to renew? And sometimes it's not them. Maybe they want to, but the homeowner doesn't want to renew. So then they come back and say, no, we don't want to renew. Okay, no problem. No one really abuses it past that. People generally will renew at that point. And if they don't, someone's going to do that eventually, but I don't think it's going to ruin it for everyone else. Unless everyone starts to do it, then we're going to have to change the way we do things.
All of this, you have a large dependency on the products that you assemble for these solutions. And we talked about that. You said, I think something like it'd be really nice to have a deep level of trust in the product because your service, that white glove service is what I would call it, is really dependent on the operation of the technology, the hardware that you're putting in. In terms of reliability on the product, how important is it? Is it gotten so much better in the industry? Is it the product with the technology and the advances? Has it gotten much more reliable? Is it the opposite? Like, where do you stand in that?
I think it's gotten worse. Our configurations have gotten better. Our designs have gotten better. And the way we choose products, my job is to find products that don't require support. We're a support company, but the more we can find the right products, right designs, right configurations that don't require support, we can be like the Maytag repair guy. We just sit there and hang out and talk and think of our next move. But products, I think people are trying to do too much. And I think they're trying to outdo each other. One of the manufacturers we deal with, it was always known that it just worked. And it's a little frustrating that it's not quite like that anymore. And I can see they're just trying to do too much. I think some companies are actually doing a good job of doing too much, like taking on everything all at once, but I don't see how that's going to last for them. And I'm sure that there are areas where people get frustrated. I think people need to start dialing it back a little and just focus on the core things. What are you trying to do? We're trying to push traffic through the network and we want it to be reliable. And that's why we try to choose products that are reliable, that maybe don't even need a lot of setup, maybe not a lot of configuration. They just work. Eventually that's going to put us out of business because of what we do. But I think there's always going to be somebody who wants that human connection and want someone to take care of things for them. And I think one of the products I really like, obviously, is Bigleaf, because it does just work and it is so easy to set up, and it creates that reliability that we really need. We use Fortinet firewalls, and they have a great SD-WAN solution. It's excellent. And we can have multiple ISPs on there. And if one ISP fails, it'll fail over to the next one almost immediately. If you're watching a YouTube video, you're not even going to notice that something just happened. But if you're on something that's dependent on the source IP and the remote IP, like a VPN connection, that changes over, you just drop that connection. That IPsec connection is now dropped. And so you're screwed. And so this is where, even though we could have the best SD-WAN solution, if you don't have something that's keeping that IP solid, it's going to cause problems. And that could be for anything from VoIP calls, VPN, gaming. There's a number of things that rely on that. And so I really think Bigleaf is a great addition to our toolbox.
It sounds like it fits into, you talked in our previous conversation about simplicity that customers can actually feel. Ultimately, the service you're providing, you could put it under the umbrella of the customer's experience. And the simplicity not only helps you deliver service, but it has a CX component to the experience that the customer is feeling too.
They might not know it though. That's the problem with stuff like this that works so well, is that it's invisible and they don't know it because everything's just running fine. If things weren't working, then they would know when it does. But if it's just working from the get-go, they're not going to know. But that's another thing, is the Bigleaf has the ability to do reports. So you can show them, hey, look, this connection was down this amount of time, or you were optimized this amount of time. And so that's something that you can at least show them, look, this is what you're paying for. Because otherwise they're going to have no idea. They're just going to think, I don't need that. And then they're going to stop the service. And then all of a sudden they're going to go, oh, okay, maybe let me bring that thing back. That was working out for me.
Some of those things, though, that they don't really know, they don't really feel. When I get in my car, I want to press the button these days, not turn the key. I want to press the button and just have it start so I can go.
Yeah, I miss the key. I like the key.
So I still have one that has a key. But I get what you mean, but I like the example that you gave with Bigleaf, is that you can take the invisible things that they don't feel and they could just take for granted that's happening behind the scenes. And you have the way to actually say, hey, there's a lot that is happening here that we're helping and we're doing for you to make sure that you just don't have to worry about it. How important is making that invisible visible to them?
I don't know how important it is to them, but it's important for anyone in business, whether it's us or our integrator partners, so that they understand that there is a value. Because if it is invisible and they don't even know it's going on, there's not a lot of ways to let them know. And I think that's a crucial way to do it. There's also other things that the integrators can see. So the homeowner might not see it, but the integrator would want to sell it because it allows us to get remote access even when we don't. We wouldn't normally have a public IP. Let's say you're on a cellular connection or a Starlink connection that's not the business account that now allows public IPs, because for a while they just did CGNAT. So you couldn't access remotely. So you couldn't hit your firewall. You couldn't VPN in. You couldn't do port forwarding, which you shouldn't do anyway. There's a lot of things you couldn't do, but now with Bigleaf, you can actually hit that public IP and get in no matter what connection's there, which is really cool. And then it also helps solve the age-old problem where we get a service ticket where it says, customer says, Wi-Fi's down. Now, is the Wi-Fi down? These days, I know my kids will say, Wi-Fi is not working. And I always get a little, hey, it's not the network, it's the ISP. Let's not blame the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is working perfectly. Look at this. And I show them how to ping Google. I'm like, it's not the Wi-Fi, it's the ISP. Thing is, when you're working remotely and our integrator partners get a call from the homeowner and they say Wi-Fi is not working, we always have to go through this whole rigmarole of, okay, can they access the local camera system? Can they control their house? Can they try to figure out if it's a switch that's down, maybe Wi-Fi itself is not working, which we can actually look remotely with cloud systems, or is it just the ISP is down? And we can check with Bigleaf and see, oh no, it's the ISP down. That's exactly what's wrong. And we don't have to second guess or frustrate a homeowner by making them do things that they might not feel comfortable with. They're just frustrated. They're trying to do work. And now we're telling them to check all of these things.
Well, so my takeaway from that is, when you're providing this white glove service that I keep calling it that, I don't know if you call it that, but you've got to be continually as efficient as possible. The more time that you spend on the phone or troubleshooting, trying to get the customer back up and running, is time you don't have with somebody else, and you have very senior people doing this. So you do want to control the amount of time that you have to spend with a customer, handle them perfectly. But it sounds like Bigleaf is the opportunity to come in and be able to troubleshoot much more efficiently and belay the fears and the frustrations of the customer more quickly. Like that example that you gave earlier, it's like you don't want to call in and say, hey, you're out of service. We're not under contract anymore. Sorry. And then all of a sudden it just delays everything. That makes the overall experience for everyone on both sides of the fence much more difficult. So the business case for simplicity and like the example you gave with Bigleaf, I'm just going to ask you to put it on a scale of 1 to 10. So like, how important is that simplicity for troubleshooting? If I took it away from you, like, how does that make you feel? Is it 1, it doesn't make any difference, take it away, I could care less. 10, no, it's like integral to our service delivery and operations.
I would say even because Bigleaf's mainly for multiple ISP connections, but even if somebody just had one connection, I would want everyone to have it if they could afford it. It just makes it that much easier for all those reasons I mentioned. Even if it's just one modem and it's, let's say, Comcast or AT&T, and they did a firmware update and now it's out of bridge mode. So our router's behind NAT. Now we can still reach it just for that reason alone. These are things that are a pain in the ass every single day that we deal with. And this would just make life that much easier. So yeah, 10 out of 10, whether they have one connection or 4 connections.
That's good. That's really interesting because the software part of the SD-WAN that they offer, giving that kind of visibility, sounds pretty unique in the industry. Would you put that as something incredibly unique, or is this something that, no, most SD-WANs have that kind of visibility these days?
I know that there's some competitors, but I know that there's things that Bigleaf does differently, especially when it comes to the IP space. And so when you get that static IP, I think that is very unique. And I think that's really what sets Bigleaf apart from, I'm not going to mention the names of the other competitors out there that are trying to do the same thing. And that is really important to us, which is why we chose that solution.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. We talked about turning service into revenue. As the CEO, founder of your business, you have to be laser focused on, if it doesn't help me increase bottom line growth in my business. And this is the kind of thing that most CEOs, like in traditional businesses, service can be handled by like a contact center. And most CEOs look at it as a cost center to contain. And it's hard. I talk all the time to contact center operators, and they feel like a support department. They feel like they don't have a seat at the table. They feel like they don't have a direct connection to revenue of the business. But you talked about turning service into revenue, and you see a direct connection there. If you could put those dots together for us.
Though we do, and we are more and more as we scale, concentrating on KPIs and metrics and things like that, I don't want to get too into the weeds on that and forget about the main goal. I feel like if you concentrate on that, you're going to start concentrating on the wrong things, and it's going to affect the main core of the business, where what we're trying to do is make people's lives easier, make it easier for them to work themselves, elevate their own departments by augmenting with us, and just trying to do whatever we can to make that better. I get pushback all the time on the free shipping that we give because it's a lot of money. It's a huge chunk. And I hear everyone else charges shipping. Everyone else charges credit card fees. Everyone else does these things. And I'm like, yeah, but we're not everybody else. And that's what sets us apart. And that's what brings in more business. And we have to turn down the floodgates with business. We have to be very selective of who we bring on as partners, because we don't want to get too many at once, just because we're a support company that has no hold time. So if we go to a trade show and have a booth there, all of a sudden we get a whole bunch of new business. We can't keep that metric of no hold time. It's impossible to scale that fast. And if we need more revenue, we just turn the hose on a little bit more and maybe do a little bit of marketing or something like that. But we do try to just grow organically. And we have been growing ever since the inception, and we'll continue to grow.
I think you just brilliantly answered that question. It is so important to you that you are putting a throttle on your growth in order to be able to maintain that kind of service, because ultimately that is the biggest lever to pull to increase revenue in the business. It's just to do what's right for the customers.
But there's also ways to augment that with. AI is a huge opportunity. There's a lot of AI tools that we use to augment our team, make our team better. And I think it doesn't matter what business you're in, you can do that today so that you can do more with the same team. And because we have such a strong team, now we're even stronger. They're augmenting themselves and it's like a superpower. There's so many different things you can do. You can create a GPT that can scrape all of your service tickets, even all of your phone calls and everything, put it in one database so that, the technician who normally you'd go in a Slack channel and say, hey guys, have you seen this issue before? And then you get everyone chiming in. But now you have something that goes, yes, on this date and this date, you saw the same issue. And basically it'll spit out even the commands that were put into the switch, let's say, to fix the problem, which is really cool. It just saves time, makes us more efficient, makes our team stronger.
I would love to ask you, because we've covered so much territory here today, if there was one thing that you wanted the IT leaders that are tuning into this conversation, if you said there's one thing I want you to take away, what would that one thing be?
That's a tough one. I would definitely say you want to listen to your partners. What do they need? How can you make their lives better? What would make them more efficient? And just be that company that they can rely on to make sure that whatever it is that they come up with, you don't get rigid and say, we don't do that. Obviously, you have to say no sometimes because you don't want to fall short. But if there's some little things that you can do to make changes to make it easier for them to do business, just try to make it as easy for them as possible. It's almost like the Amazon model, right? That's why Amazon's looked at how do we make it as easy as possible for people to purchase from us? And they've done it in an amazing way. I mean, I hate to compare it to that because it seems like the evil empire or something, but it works. And it's something that we strive for as well. I don't want to strive to be the Amazon model. I want to strive to be our own model, but it is the same thing.
What presupposes that is a relationship with the partners that isn't transactional within the business, just the operating, but actually having conversations with them as well and having that dialogue about how we can do this better together.
And make them feel important to you because they should be. I had somebody ask me the other day because there's an issue with a very large account of ours. And one of my guys said, hey, should we prioritize them in front of other people? And I said, no. He said, should we prioritize them because they're so important? And I said, no, everybody is important. I don't care if it's a one guy company. I was one guy. That one guy could be our best account one day. And everyone should feel important because they are. Every single one of them is how we pay our employees, is how our families get fed. It really doesn't matter the size.
I got to say, I think there's going to be questions that come out of this. Is it okay if I give out a link to your LinkedIn profile that if people wanted to reach out and they had questions?
Yeah, although I get so many LinkedIn messages, I'll probably miss it. If you want, you can give out my email address. I get a lot of emails as well, but I can comb through those better than LinkedIn. LinkedIn, it'll almost definitely get missed.
We'll go with the email. We'll go with the email. And I just wanted to say, Bjorn, thank you, because the whole mission of this podcast is just to bring different ideas, different perspectives, different insights from different forms of the industry and technology and all of our different point of views. And if we can share it with each other, we're all going to get better. And that's the rising tide that lifts all boats. And I think you did an amazing job of raising that tide today. And I just wanted to say thank you for coming on.
Thank you. No, I love the idea of that. Yeah, we always try to help out in our industry. We try to do the same thing. We try not to hold any secrets, hold anything back. Like nothing we're doing is crazy. We're just an open book. And I think it helps everyone, hopefully helps everyone be better.